Welcome back to the Eric Krown Crypto channel, wishing you a happy and healthy start to this nice Tuesday morning here. It's a Tuesday event day. That's right, Jay Powell is speaking. He's actually testifying in front of Congress, which is typically a bit of a short-term volatility day, not necessarily like a trending movement day. That's usually reserved for the major economic events. But you can find this for yourself on the events tab over here on the Krown trading application, and it is around 3 p.m. U.S. time. I believe this is Eastern Standard Time that he'll be getting on the board there. And, well, expect some nice movements. Other than that, I want to once again remind you that that we do have a nice little questionnaire in the link in the description below, as is the link for the for the app here, where you can actually find this data. But more importantly, to the point, if you do want to give your opinion on that, it would actually greatly help us understand, well, the community better and understand, thus, you know, what is on your mind, which is probably a good thing to be understanding. Anyways, let me now get into the analysis. I want to make this one a little bit more on the streamlined side, and let me get rid of my discords over here, and let's just jump right into it. So yes, starting off right in over here with the daily time frame for Bitcoin, we do see something of interest. First and foremost, Bitcoin based off the green 55 exponential moving average, which, you know, that is where you do expect your higher lows to come in on an uptrend and your lower highs to come in on a downtrend. In this case, Bitcoin's still on an uptrend, so ultimately, if Bitcoin is going to continue with the uptrend, probably do expect it to come from this region right here, as Bitcoin rests upon that region. Now, that is going to be accompanied by potential, I say potential here, hidden bullish divergence between this point and this point. And let me just pull up a fresh chart. This is fucking annoying. Yeah, oh, it's actually already in there. Nice one, caretaker. Yes, so you can see potential hidden bullish divergence. That is pending validation. Validation where, or confirmation above where? 22,800 on a daily closing basis. If that does get initiated, very likely looking at a move back up into the mid $23,000 territory, somewhere between, let's say, like 23.5, maybe even all the way up to 24,000 bucks. So do keep that in mind. But again, that is pending validation. Invalidation, or not necessarily invalidation, but just validation of continuation to the downside, would be a daily closure below about, I think it was like a little bit below 22,000 bucks at that point. Very likely looking at moves back down below, probably ultimately below 21,000 bucks, with a bounce along the way. Tentatively looking probably somewhere around the the mid $20,000 territory. Excuse this poll right there. It is not relevant for anything other than nothing. Anyways, yes, moving on now, we can get into the next chart. So keep in mind the validation point at about 22,800, because that actually matches up very, very well here when we look at daily stochastic momentum, which will actually turn back onto the upside from extreme lows, actually, if Bitcoin can close above where? Holy shit! 22,800. Very interesting how these things seem to work. How these things seem to work hand in hand. And you've actually seen several twists to the upside from this oh Jesus, this chart is also all convoluted. Let me just pull up a brand new one as well. Here we go. Good old BitMexico. I haven't used this chart in ages. It used to be like my favorite one to use. Now I don't use it at all. But let's just see what happened during the last oh my god, this goes all the way back to September 2022. The last 4 times that we've actually seen turns to the upside within this region, well, they have been pretty significant bounces, I'd say. Not necessarily timing it all that well in this area over here, although nothing really did, because Bitcoin was more or less going sideways. But ultimately, the upside did definitely happen with double-digit percentage moves or more. The most recent one over here, an immediate effect. So if you are going to be looking at this as relevant for the current, the current structure, you'd expect Bitcoin not to break down here again below the pivot that we just spoke about, just below 22,000 bucks on a daily closing basis. And we'd be expecting today, maybe at most tomorrow, Wednesday, for a move back above about 22.8 and a closure above there on the daily time frame. If that happens, very likely another like $1,000-ish move to the upside. As we can also reference this chart as well. So this was another one that we brought up over the weekend. This one fired off. This is the Jewel Light setup, the Jewel Light on the 4-hour time frame, getting below the 35 read right here, and then turning white for the first tick. That has initiated the setup. Over time, in alignment with the daily trend. This data only back tested for the weekends, which this did fire off on the weekend. It was on Saturday, and it makes these thingies over here relevant. These statistics is the word that I'm looking for. What the fuck, man? I can't even speak anymore. Good things no one's watching, so that's good. Anyways, yeah. So this is back tested over the past 3 years, going back to 2019. I guess almost 4 years now. Only for the weekends, only weekend data, and again, full 4-hour setup has to be in alignment with the daily trend, in this case, daily trend to the upside. If indeed that does happen, there's a highly probable move for a nice short-term move to the upside, a relatively short-term move to the upside. I totally botched this yesterday. Very fucking embarrassing, but happens, man. It happens when you don't edit any videos ever. And it is this 10 bars on average in trade. That would be more around 2 days, a little bit less than 2 days. So this one already kind of wearing out its welcome as far as what we expect, given the statistics, historically speaking, for the full result of this move. But you know, we do expect some variance within that. Anyways, again, high hit rate here, 81.25%, high profit factor as well, I would say. And this would also be suggesting that Bitcoin has a bit of a higher probability in the more near term to initiate that move further to the north side than not. You know, a move like 4, maybe 5%, which would put Bitcoin actually above 23,000 bucks, which is very interesting because if Bitcoin goes above 23,000 bucks, well, what does that mean? That means that the daily condition is very likely to get fulfilled as well, initiating that hidden bullish divergence and also initiating stochastic momentum turning back onto the upside. Until then, you know, I think that we're probably just waiting around for tonight for me over in Dubai, but for you over in the Western Hemisphere, you know, probably midday, the event with Jay Powell, and then of course he's actually speaking again tomorrow, I believe. So expect the unexpected. No, expect a lot of bullshit. Also on the daily HPDR indicator, I wanted to update on this as well. Bitcoin still hanging around the bottom end of this region. Again, that is also what I'd be using kind of to beget continuation, meaning that if Bitcoin closes below this region on a daily closing basis, basically like 22,000 bucks. At that point, very likely a move back down to low 21s, probably an attempt for a bounce there, and ultimately, you know, down to 20,000 even, or 20,500 is very much fair game. Until then, the longer that Bitcoin trades sideways here without breaking down, the more and more likely we will see a mean reversion play. Why is that? Because we are starting to see volatility contract over here. It's not anything significant just yet. Maybe another day or two, and we'll start to actually see something, a particular note. But if that does happen, the ideology here would be volatility contraction leads towards mean reversion on returns, and returns for the median here is actually above 24,000 bucks still. So it would likely indicate that Bitcoin's going to play out a nice, relatively medium-term move to the upside if that does indeed play out. Anyways, we haven't spoken anything about the lower-term timeframes thus yet. I don't know if I even should reference the lower-term timeframes. You know what? Fuck it. Yeah, we're not going to talk about the lower-term timeframes today. It's just not super relevant. Because everything's going to be decided on a daily, I suspect. So going to be a lot of that. Now, I did want to bring up one last point of conjecture here, and it's actually going to be going back to traditional markets, where traditional markets played out. You know, traditional markets played out a pullback over the past 3 weeks, and then last week had a nice bounce on a reversal. Very similar to Bitcoin, although Bitcoin did not enjoy the same bounce. You can see Bitcoin's weekly over here. You can see triple Q right here, which Bitcoin seems to trade most like, and then NASDAQ maybe like a close second, let's say, but they all kind of look the same anyways. In this case, the reason why I bring this one up is that Bitcoin, again, still is not enjoying this bounce, which does mean that it is relatively weak compared to traditional markets. So if we do see a sell-off in traditional markets, that's at the point where you probably do experience a Bitcoin breakdown, and those lower targets do become a little bit more relevant. If we go down here to the daily, we can see that the day did end up on a bit of a sell-off there. Now, I do think that things probably pull back intraday today on traditional markets, but still, you know, I do like this low right here at about 290 on triple Qs. If we go down to a lower term time frame, I think it becomes a little more obvious. Like, yeah, short term pullback is completely fine. Just don't want to see, you know, a lower low below 290. So the question is, how will Bitcoin respond if and when that does happen? So that's something I'll be watching today, and I suspect that, you know, we won't really have too many new things to be speaking about until we get today's event out of the way. As you can see, Bitcoin's been in basically a line chart. In fact, if we put on a line chart, it's literally been a fucking line. It's literally been a fucking line. If we go and do it daily, it's even worse. It's even worse. But yeah, still higher probability for a short-term bounce here. Do be aware of invalidations. Do be aware, you know, of where those pivots are. And I think that's a good place for me to once again shield the old Bybit. They got 0% on maker fees for derivative contract orders. I'm also going to be bringing out a really fucking cool promotion that they're going to be doing here as well, where basically, I don't want to spoil the surprise, but it's actually fucking good. It's not just like this bullshit like, hey, deposit $100,000 and get, you know, $5 for free, you know, right? But yeah, so keep an eye out for that. And yeah, time for me to wish you the best as always. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully soon.